Dr. Alan Mercer was at the pinnacle of his career. His books topped bestseller lists. His face graced prestigious journals. He was lauded as the leading voice in modern psychology. Yet a gnawing unease lingered beneath the surface of his success. It was a whisper in the stillness of his grand study, a fleeting shadow in the bright lights of acclaim. He couldn't quite place it, this disquiet that haunted him. One evening, while reviewing his latest manuscript, a sense of dread washed over him. His heart pounded in his chest. A cold sweat clung to him. He scanned the pages, searching for the source of his discomfort. His gaze fell upon a margin note scrawled in his own hand years ago. The words were faint, almost invisible now, but they struck him with the force of a physical blow. "Remember, it's not yours." The words seemed to writhe on the page, mocking him, judging him. He felt a chill run down his spine, a prickling sensation at the back of his neck. He tried to shake it off, to dismiss it as fatigue, but the words clung to him, echoing through the cavernous halls of his mind. "Remember, it's not yours." The words echoed in the silence of his study, each syllable a hammer blow against the fragile edifice of his composure. He tried to recall when he had scribbled that note, what half-forgotten memory it had sprung from. The more he strained, the more elusive it became, like a wisp of smoke that disappears when you reach for it. Had he written it? Or had some other force guided his hand, a premonition of the darkness to come? His mind, usually so sharp, felt blunted, his thoughts circling the same morbid drain. His gaze drifted back to the manuscript, to the groundbreaking theories, the revolutionary insights that had brought him fame and fortune. Now they seemed tainted, poisoned by the venomous ink of that cryptic note. Doubt, like an insidious vine, began to choke his confidence. He tried to convince himself it was nothing, a trick of the light, a momentary lapse of reason. Yet deep down, a seed of fear had been sown. He could not shake the feeling that he was standing on the precipice of a terrifying truth. That night, sleep offered no respite. Instead, he was plunged into a chilling dreamscape. He found himself staring into a silver-backed mirror, his reflection staring back at him with a mocking smile. The face was his, yet not his. The eyes were cold, calculating, devoid of the warmth he always tried to project. "Thief," the reflection hissed, its voice a raspy whisper that seemed to come from within Alan's own skull. "Fraud." He jolted awake, heart hammering against his ribs, a cold sweat slicking his skin. The room was dark, the only sound his own ragged breathing. For a moment, he lay there, caught between the fading remnants of the nightmare and the suffocating reality of his room. He switched on the bedside lamp, the sudden light a jarring intrusion in the silence. He tried to dismiss the dream as a manifestation of his growing anxiety, but the image of the distorted reflection lingered, imprinted on the back of his eyelids. The word thief echoed in his mind, a damning accusation he couldn't silence. The nightmares continued, each more vivid, more terrifying than the last. They bled into his waking hours, blurring the lines between reality and hallucination. He would catch glimpses of shadowy figures lurking at the edge of his vision, hear whispers of his name in the dead of night. The line between the real and the unreal became increasingly blurred. His reflection in the mirror, once a source of reassurance, now filled him with dread. He saw the face of a stranger staring back at him, a stranger who wore his face as a mask. The eyes were colder, more calculating, and they seemed to follow his every move. He began to withdraw from his work, from his colleagues, from the world he had so meticulously constructed. His study, once a sanctuary, now felt like a prison, the walls closing in on him, suffocating him with their silent accusations. His world, once filled with the bright lights of success, was now shrouded in a perpetual twilight, a chilling premonition of the darkness that threatened to consume him entirely. He was trapped in a waking nightmare, his mind a labyrinth of fear and paranoia. One name began to surface again and again in his fragmented thoughts. Elias Crane. A forgotten name, buried deep within the recesses of his memory. He saw the name scrawled in the margins of his old notebooks, heard it whispered on the wind, saw the face, gaunt and accusing, in the faces of strangers on the street. Elias Crane, his old mentor, his forgotten friend, his rival. The man who had shared his groundbreaking theories, his unique insights, only to disappear from Alan's life as quickly as he had entered it. Now, Elias's ghost returned to haunt him, his accusing eyes boring into Alan's soul. The more he tried to suppress the memories of Elias, the more insistent they became, clawing their way to the surface of his consciousness. He remembered their late-night conversations, the shared excitement of their research, the bond they had forged over their shared passion. But there was something else, something darker, lurking beneath the surface of those memories. A sense of guilt, of betrayal, gnawed at the edges of his mind. He pushed the memories away, but they returned with renewed vigor, fueled by his growing paranoia and the unshakable feeling that he was not alone. Section 6. Skeletons in the Attic, Whispers of the Past. Alan found himself in the dusty attic of his childhood home. The air was thick with decay and forgotten memories. He pushed aside cobwebs and old furniture. Searching for something, he found a dusty old trunk. He knelt, tracing the initials, E.C. Elias Crane. Inside, old journals revealed the truth. Alan had plagiarized Elias's work. Elias's ghost had come to collect its due. Section 7. The Voice from Beyond the Grave. Alan found a box of reel-to-reel tapes, each labelled with a date and cryptic title. He threaded one onto the player. The machine whirred to life. A faint, distorted voice filled the room. Elias's voice rasped, accusing Alan of stealing his work. Alan listened in horror. Section 8. A Pact Sealed in the Dreamscape. That night, the dreams returned with a vengeance. Alan found himself face to face with Elias, his mentor's form shimmering, almost translucent, in the swirling greyness of the dreamscape. Gone was the warmth in Elias's eyes, replaced by a cold fury that chilled Alan to the bone. "You stole my life's work," Elias said, his voice a hollow echo that seemed to reverberate through Alan's very being. "You profited from my genius while I was forgotten, left to fade into obscurity." "I didn't mean to," Alan pleaded, his voice a choked whisper, but the words rang hollow even to his own ears. He knew with a sickening certainty that there was no excuse for what he had done. He had betrayed his mentor, his friend, for his own selfish ambition. "It's too late for apologies," Elias said, his form shifting, becoming more solid, more real. "You made your choice. Now it's time to pay the price." Elias reached out, his hand passing through Alan's chest, and a coldness spread through his body, extinguishing the last embers of his resistance. He felt himself being pulled down, swallowed by the darkness, his own identity dissolving like sugar in water. Section 9. Only One Remains. The following morning, the cleaning lady found Dr. Alan Mercer slumped over his desk, a single empty reel-to-reel tape spinning silently beside him. The police concluded it was a heart attack, a tragic end to a brilliant career. But those closest to him noticed a change. It was subtle at first, a shift in his demeanour, a new intensity in his eyes. He moved with a confidence that bordered on arrogance, his words carrying a weight they hadn't before. He began to publish again, groundbreaking work that surpassed even his earlier achievements. His colleagues whispered in hushed tones, marvelling at his sudden resurgence of creativity. But there was something different about his work, a darkness, a chilling insight that sent shivers down their spines. One evening, as he put the finishing touches on his latest manuscript, he paused, a slow smile spreading across his face. He leaned back in his chair, and in a voice that was both familiar and utterly alien whispered, "Thank you, Alan. You were right. It is mine after all." The ghost of Elias Crane had finally claimed his due.